Samoa has a GNI per capita of 4,070 US dollars, which puts it at the upper end of the lower middle income bracket, according to the World Bank. Out of all the world's countries, Samoa is perhaps one of the most at risk of suffering under the current climate crisis. Because the world is at a point where human-induced climate change is going to have at least some negative impact on both the environment and human settlements, there are some things that will happen in Samoa no matter what can be realistically done at this point. The question is not if, but how bad. The issues facing Samoa include a loss of arable land, rising sea levels, which as a small island nation Samoa is particularly vulnerable to, an increase of salt water, and a decrease in freshwater availability. But perhaps Samoa's most pressing concern is this loss of arable or farmable land. In 2016, only 11.48% of the country's land was arable. Samoa has a total land area of about 1,097 square miles, which means only 126 square miles are available for farming. Now, just hearing that, it may seem like a lot, but the problem is that not only is that land spread out across its 4 inhabited islands, but that Samoa lacks high-efficiency farming techniques used by more developed countries. As a result, Samoa has to import much of their food. This problem, Samoa's lack of farmable land, is only going to be magnified by the effects of climate change. A significant portion of this land is on coastal plains, which are obviously going to be hard hit by rising sea levels. Additionally, increasing ocean acidification, the encroaching of salt water into atolls, and the general erosion of land due to rising waters and more powerful cyclones will have a serious negative impact on the quantity and viability of arable land. When 40% of Samoa's GDP comes from the agricultural sector, and 70% of households farm for both commercial and subsistence purposes, the vulnerable state of Samoa's agriculture becomes an even larger issue. These things are going to happen. The only question is on what scale. How bad will it get? Well, that largely depends, of course, on the amount of CO2 we continue to allow to enter the atmosphere. I found a model that relies on 3 different predictions for emissions: low, medium, and high. Obviously, the more CO2 we put into the atmosphere, the higher the sea level will rise, the less farmable land there will be in Samoa. According to the low emissions model, by 2030, the average temperature around Samoa will have risen by 0.2 and 1 degrees Celsius, and the ocean will have risen between 5 and 15 centimeters, or between 2 and 6 inches. According to the medium emissions model, by 2030, the average temperature will have risen between 0.4 and 1.2 degrees Celsius, and the ocean will have risen between 6 and 14 centimeters. The high emissions model predicts a temperature rise by 2030 of between 0.4 and 1 degree Celsius, and a sea level rise of between 5 and 15 centimeters. Now again, this doesn't seem like a lot, but by 2090, these values are expected to triple. In Samoa, where arable land is at a premium, any loss can have dire consequences, and as such, the problem of climate change is an existential one. If something is not done now, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, then they're losing land. This is not something you can come back from. You can't reclaim land like this. I mean, sure, the Dutch did it over centuries. There's not centuries here. This is an immediate problem. Bye.